If you want to understand the sheer craziness of modern banking and fintech right now, honestly, you don't need to look any further than the events of this past week. We're going to look at the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the OCC, and we're going to view them through what I think is a super helpful metaphor. Imagine the OCC as a bouncer, standing at the velvet rope of an exclusive nightclub. You've got all these companies lining up, begging to get in. In this explainer, we're going to look at how one regulator handed down two completely different verdicts to two different fintechs. And then we'll look at a massive legacy card company that bypassed the line entirely and just waltzed into the VIP section to print money.
Here's our agenda for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the OCC velvet rope, then how Upstart gets fast-tracked, why Wise gets turned away, and how Amex prints money anyway. Finally, we'll hit the big takeaway.
All right, let's dive right in. Section 1, the OCC velvet rope, regulating the fintech VIP line.
To really grasp financial regulation right now, we have to look at how the exact same referee made two completely different calls in the very same week. On Thursday, the OCC waived Upstart's application straight past the line, gave him the green light. Then literally the next day, Friday, they looked at Wise's application and flat out turned them away at the door. It is a fascinating tale of two fintechs. Why does one get the VIP treatment while the other gets bounced?
Which brings us to Section 2. Upstart gets fast-tracked, setting up an AI underwritten national bank.
Now, this number should honestly make your jaw drop. 4.5. The OCC's conditional approval to let them hold FDIC-insured deposits directly landed just 4.5 months after Upstart filed their application. Now, they do still have a few remaining hurdles pending, like Federal Reserve Bank holding company approval, but in the world of banking regulation, getting this far this fast is practically light speed.
To put that kind of pace into perspective, Michelle Alt, the co-founder of the Claros Group, called this process speedy. Actually, she said it's practically TSA pre-check speed for a regulatory process that normally drags on for well over a year. Upstart didn't even sweat the wait. They just breezed right through security.
So, what exactly was the pitch that got them through so fast? It comes down to three things. First, cut out the third-party bank partners that usually lean on for every loan. Second, by doing that, they significantly lower their funding costs. And third, they can lend directly nationwide in all 50 states. Upstart essentially walked up and said, look, we have this incredible AI underwriting model, we don't want to use legacy risk models, and we are totally done with group projects. We just want to do the work ourselves. And you know what? The OCC absolutely loved it. They just fast-tracked the first AI underwritten national bank.
But let's pivot sharply to Section 3. Wise gets turned away, and how the paperwork sinks the pitch.
Remember, literally the very next day, Friday, the exact same regulator flat out denied Wise's application. And the reason? It wasn't their tech, it was a messy compliance history. Wise, which you might remember as TransferWise, had lingering anti-money laundering issues, Bank Secrecy Act compliance scabs, and it was all tied directly to a multi-state consent order from 2023. Look, no matter how good your pitch is, showing up to the OCC with these kinds of gaps, it's like walking into a high-stakes job interview with massive typos all over your resume. It completely sinks the pitch before anyone even gets to the good part.
And the timing of this? That's what really stings for Wise. This wasn't just some routine rejection. This was reportedly the OCC's first public charter denial in well over a decade. I mean, think about that. For over 10 years, the OCC has been approving fintech after fintech. But for Wise, the paperwork simply ruined the whole shebang.
The market consequence was immediate, and it was severe. Wise shares dropped as much as 11% on the news of the denial. Now, they aren't throwing in the towel entirely. They're planning to refile, this time under the Genius Act's stablecoin framework, basically betting that their cross-border infrastructure can still play nice with US dollar rails. But the damage for this round? Yeah, it was absolutely done.
All right, moving on to Section 4. Amex prints money anyway, skipping the velvet rope entirely.
Because while Upstart and Wise were sweating it out with the OCC, American Express didn't need anyone's permission slip to have an absolutely incredible second quarter. While fintechs are out here fighting tooth and nail for charters, Amex quietly had one of its best quarters in years. Q2 earnings per share hit $4.53, easily blowing past the consensus. Revenue climbed 10% year over year to a staggering $19.6 billion. And card member spending, that grew 9% on an FX-adjusted basis, which is their fastest pace in 3 years. What are people even buying? Airline travel, dining, and luxury retail are leading the charge. Amex actually liked these numbers so much they bumped up their full-year revenue growth guidance to 10%.
And this brilliantly illustrates a vital economic concept we're seeing right now, the K-shaped economy.
This is an environment where high earners just keep spending heavily on luxury, flights, and designer bags, while the broader economy pulls back and tightens its belt. Amex is thriving on this "if you have to ask the annual fee, this isn't for you" energy. They simply have premium cardholders who just don't check their statements. Amex keeps collecting fees whether or not members redeem every single credit they're offered. They don't need a new banking charter. They literally just need their wealthy customers to keep swiping.
Which brings us to Section 5, the big takeaway, and what all of this actually means for finance.
Let's synthesize all of this. Upstart got fast-tracked because of their AI underwriting tech. They brought something fresh and, most importantly, clean to the table. Wise was denied, entirely driven by a messy compliance history, proving that hype absolutely cannot overcome an unclean compliance closet. And then you have Amex, who skipped the line entirely, driven purely by premium cardholder spend. The reality is, getting a bank charter today requires a spotless compliance record, but as Amex proves, real overwhelming financial dominance, that might not require a new charter at all.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative question to ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. Look at the paths we've traced. Does the future of finance really belong to these new AI-driven bank charters fighting for space at the velvet rope? Or does it belong to the legacy giants, quietly collecting old-school premium credit fees from people who never stop spending? It's a fascinating tension in modern banking. Thanks so much for joining me. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.